Are you live?
All right.
So to those of you who have joined us already, I wish you a very warm welcome to our little chat on Teams today. We're about 4 or 5 minutes before we start. So enjoy this picture of SeaDream from Norway, taken by one of our officers, I think.
Yeah.
Taken by
the chief officer, Daniel.
Taken by our chief officer, Daniel. And you can see the rainbow, hopefully, in the background if everything is set up correctly. And we have slightly more participants today than we expected. So fingers crossed for a good session today. And Bob and Amelia, feel free to chime in if you have any words before we start.
Welcome, everyone. I want to be right where that yacht is right now. It looks spectacular.
Sorry, Bob, not allowed. No space, actually.
Sure.
Oh, man.
I would go and just sleep on one of the Balinese beds.
Okay. We can do that.
So when I first thought about having this meeting or chat a couple of days ago, I thought maybe we'd be like 50 people, but we're going to be quite a bit more than 50 people in this call today. So again, thank you all for joining.
Oh.
And again, to those of you who joined a little bit early, should be a Q&A panel. So feel free to start asking us questions.
Andreas, when are the questions that that Bob worked up, when are they being issued? Have they already gone out?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So we're going to just say after this meeting is when.
Yeah, that would be a post set up after the meeting.
Okay.
Oh, we already have questions. Look at this.
Will this be available to view later?
Hey, Peter.
Peter, hi.
Thank you for being on the call. And Ken is asking, will this webinar be available to view later? We're going to try to record it. So this is the first time that I run a webinar like this. So I hope we got the technicalities sorted out. So if that's the case, yes, you should be able to record later, but I can't guarantee it. Lou is asking, I will rejoin in 30 minutes. Will the recording be distributed? So I guess same answer. We're going to try to do that. And someone doesn't like our policy of keeping $200 per reservation for cancellations because of USA restriction to travel. So that's a good input. We'll come back to that actually either on this call or quite soon after. Good. Whoa. Okay, a lot of questions there. Okay, so we got about 1 minute to 7. So we're probably going to start, 1 or 2 minutes after 1 o'clock Eastern time, 7 o'clock Oslo time. So we're going to give a couple more minutes. I'll try to answer questions throughout the Will there be, Kenneth is asking, will there be future Norway cruises? You know, I hope so. I don't know actually. So not decided quite yet. Are we able to see other participants? Sin Bob is asking if we can do that.
You can't see them.
I'm not sure.
No, you cannot see the other participants. Only we can see them if we turn that on.
And John is saying, if we make final payment this month for the December cruise and problem arises between now and then, what recourse do we have?
Perfect
I love
question.
I love that question because that we have. Bob is going to actually address that later on the call. So, okay.
Hi, Marco.
Marco. So we actually looked at the participant list before this meeting, and there's a lot of friends we have on this call today. So thank you so much for joining, everybody. And Marco is a former employee. He's just saying that he just want to say hello to this incredible team and company that I had the honor and privilege to collaborate for a small period of time. Thank you, Marco. Appreciate it. Do you ever cancel a trip for lack of travelers? No, we haven't done that so far. Not planning on doing that. And Gretchen, hey, great
Gretchen.
to see our good friends. Thank you. Oh, and Rosalind is coming from Sydney. It is 3 a.m. in Sydney. So thank you so much, Rosalind, for joining us.
Hi, Penny.
Okay, so I think it's now 1 minute past the top of the hour, and we have reached more than 500 participants. Again, expecting 50, so slightly more than we expected, but thank you all so much for joining us today. I'll go through some practicalities for this little session. So we are trying to record the meeting. So if we're doing it right, it is actually being recorded as we speak. And all you will be muted by default. So instead of being 50 participants, we're now 500 plus participants. So you're all being muted, but there should be a button at the bottom of your screen where you can raise your hand. And then we have the ability to unmute that participant. So we're going to try to do that a little bit later on the call. There should also be this chat functionality where you can chat amongst yourselves. Now, if you do that, we may not monitor the chat, so we only look at the questions. So, but feel free to chat and do that. And again, many more participants than we thought would join. So this meeting may be a little bit different than our original envisioned, but I'm still very, very happy that so many people wanted to join us on this call today. We plan on spending about 35 to 40 minutes. That includes the Q&A session towards the end. So we're going to start off by giving a small presentation, share some information about Norway, and try to discuss some of how we see the future and get some input and feedback from all you on that. And after the call, there will be a brief survey that very brief, Bob told me to say it's a very brief survey, that if you want to, we would very much appreciate it if you send it back to us. These are your panelists for today. I'm joined by Bob, who's in Dallas, by Emilio in Miami, and Sudesh and I. We are with social distancing, with a chair in between us, here in our Oslo office. And for those of you that don't know this team, Bob has been with us since day one, 19 years, soon to be 20. The same with Sudesh, who's been with us for many, many years, head of hotel operations and products on board. And Emilio, who is our cruise legend and itinerary planning guru.
I'm a newbie.
Maybe. In case you guys don't know me, this is me. I sort of joined the cruise industry back in 1987 when my family started Seaborn Cruise Line. So here I am putting a piece of a lucky coin attached to a piece of wood underneath the keel, on top of which they build the Seaborn Pride. And when the ship was built in dry dock and they put water inside of the dry dock, this piece of wood would actually float up, and whoever picked it up would be getting a reward as finding the lucky coin. So I've been with SeaDream about 9 years, but my experience started a little bit before that time. Bob, can I pass the word on to you?
Thank you so much, Andreas. I want to join Andreas in welcoming all of you and sincerely appreciate your valuable time to spend with us. We also look forward to your valuable feedback and thoughts and ideas on our future as we continue forward. Atle Brynestad, as Andreas just mentioned, Atle was the original founder and owner of Seabourn Cruise Line. Some 25 plus years ago, he sold Seabourn to Carnival Corporation, was on the board of Carnival Corporation for a period of time, but then actually got out of the business totally for a brief period of time. And then about 20 years ago, he made an offer to Mickey Arison at Carnival Corporation to purchase what was then known as Seabourn Goddess 1 and Seabourn Goddess 2. Mickey Arison ultimately decided those were the smallest vessels in the fleet. I actually was running sales for Cunard and Seabourn at the time, so I knew them well. They were always at the bottom of every spreadsheet I was involved with. But 19 years ago now, and it seems like yesterday, we started our little company, SeaDream Yacht Club. And right from the start, we said it's yachting, not cruising. We absolutely have a passion throughout the entire company for delivering a casually elegant, unique, and different yachting experience. I've always loved the slogan, but I've never loved it more than I love it now, and I'm hearing this from a lot of you. Now's the time to get onto a small boutique luxury yacht like SeaDream 1 and 2. For all the wrong reasons, it does ring better, but it absolutely does. Now, when the pandemic hit back in March, we were actually the last one to stop sailing in Barbados. And we frustratingly decided we absolutely have to stop for the safety of our guests as well as our crew. And we took the yachts both over to Lisbon and had them sitting for a brief period of time. But I'm incredibly proud of Atle and his ingenuity, being the entrepreneur that he is. He was thinking, how can we get back in operation? We have these incredible crew members. We've got a family. How can we operate? He said to Andreas and myself, let's start operating in Norway exclusively for Norwegian guests. Andreas and I said, man, that's crazy. We don't have any bookings. We're totally empty. We don't have any itineraries planned. But Atle said, we can do it. Let's do it. So the entire SeaDream family got together and came up with the direction of Atle and creativity of Atle, these incredible 12 and 7-day itineraries in Norway. Originally, we brought SeaDream 1 up. We went into a quarantine period, which was required by Norway, which was fine. We loaded the voyages. We started promoting the voyages, and the SeaDream 1 sold out so quickly. About a week later, Atle said, bring up SeaDream 2. Let's have both yachts operating in Norway exclusively for Norwegian. Actually, Danish and Finnish guests were also allowed by the country of Norway. We have sold out these voyages and have provided absolutely incredible experiences for many very loyal guests from Scandinavia, but also an incredible number of new guests, which is also just great. My biggest regret with all of this is I couldn't go on any voyages. I'm not allowed to go to Norway. And I heard from so many loyal travel advisors as well as loyal SeaDream guests, I want to go. I'll do anything to go on those Norwegian voyages. Please let us go ahead and book. Well, unfortunately, that hasn't been possible. All of this is really thanks to the incredible SeaDream family that we've got. I tell you, Sudesh, who you'll hear from in a minute, he came up with very detailed protocols and procedures for our entire team to follow. And it's as a result of that great team and our attention to detail and focus on the cleanliness and the health and well-being of our guests that SeaDream 1 and SeaDream 2 have remained COVID-free throughout the entire pandemic, which I am just incredibly proud of. I'm going to turn it over to Sudesh, and he'll give you far more details than Bob can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We basically started much earlier than coronavirus was announced as a COVID-19 pandemic. I remember the first time Andreas and I discussed it with our medical consultant, Dr. Bill of Viken, on January 27th. And I see that Peter is listening to us. So thank you, Peter, for your team. And since then, we have been redefining our procedures and every new information coming out. We were able to continue operations much longer in Caribbean, simply by being prepared way early in the year. We had to stop operation in March because of uncertainty, and honestly, we didn't want to put our guests and crew in any unknown risk. Again, because of us being small, it allowed us to act quickly, and having the most supportive crew, who decided to stay on board. We were the first luxury cruise operator to restart operation. We didn't really shut down, but took a pause for a few weeks in order to ensure a safe operation with confidence. Once the decision was made to come to Norway, everything started to fall in place. We made a lot of changes to our operations and trained our crew for the same. Firstly, most of our crew were already in quarantine on board, and any of the new joiners got tested negative and stayed in quarantine for 10 days in a hotel before coming on board. This ensured all crew were safe and healthy. We redefined our embarkation process. All crew members on the pier side have personal protective equipment. The doctor takes the temperature and past symptoms for data collecting. There will be a proper COVID testing if the world doesn't change in the coming months. All the luggage is sprayed down with electrostatic sanitizer. And I'm sorry to inform that we had to implement a no touching protocol. So no more handshakes or hugs throughout the voyage for all crew on board. And I would like to shout out to one special guest. She knows who I'm talking about. The concierge area has designated standing mats and a barrier to maintain distance between guests and concierge. We have many non-touch hand sanitizer now located around the yachts. We encourage everyone to use the hand sanitizers as much as possible, especially during meal times. We have taken great care to make sure that guests don't help themselves in any buffet areas, and only designated crew serve them to avoid any cross-contamination. We are disinfecting the public areas with the electrostatic fogger. All touch points also get disinfected for a clean and safe environment. All staterooms are sanitized on a daily basis. We have given a lot of focus on stateroom appliances. We are also using a special UV lamp after turn-down services for sterilizing the staterooms. All spa treatments are carefully planned with a 15-minute break between treatments. All gym equipments get sanitized. We even sanitize the casino chips and cards before and after a session. Social distancing is in place with certain allocated seatings in all the bars and casino. We feel very confident and take our precautions very seriously. We have been and remain COVID-free for the duration of the pandemic, and it is our goal to remain the same. The success we have seen in Norway, despite of the little scare, has been truly astounding. And now I think Andreas can tell you about our little scare.
Yeah, I did get scared this summer. I'll be honest. We had a guest who had disembarked, who reached out to us and said that he had tested positive for COVID. So we immediately went into this emergency mode and pulled out our protocols and called the government and the authorities. And I got extra scared because I'd sent my mom on board. So after calling the authorities, after calling the government and implementing all the procedures, I quickly called my mom to see how she was doing. Little did I know that she was not only happy, she was more than happy. They had already served her lobster and champagne in the stateroom. So, meanwhile, we in the office were busy working with authorities, the government, to, you know, all the stuff that we had to take care of. The crew on board were already serving all the guests in the staterooms, yes, wearing face masks, which we didn't normally do this summer, and taking all the other measurements that were needed to make it safe and successful. So this was in the afternoon one day. We went into a port, Bodø. Everybody was quarantined. We got everybody tested the following day. And the rest of the voyage was, well, rather successful, I would say. People were very happy afterwards. And by the way, there was no social distancing after that instance because everybody was tested. So it was actually maybe one of the safest places in Norway at the time. Emilio, I'm going to try to hand the control over to you.
Okay.
That works.
Yes, thank you, Andreas. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Sudesh. They covered a lot, but you know, we really glossed over one aspect of all of it that's been set up to now, that normally you go work on a new destination, a new deployment in a period of 2 years, if not longer, in, you know, working out the itinerary, pricing it, putting it on the website, all those other things. We did it in the span of 4 to 6 weeks. We created a Norwegian website. We sold it we priced it in kroner. We created the itinerary, and the itinerary, a lot of that was driven by Atle himself. He picked out many of these places. For example, in this particular picture that you see here on your screen, this is Fjordland. And Fjordland, I hadn't even heard of it, but it is a place in Norway. No ships really call here. We had called here once before, many years ago, when SeaDream went to Norway a few years ago, and we added it back into our itinerary for this year. But there were a number of places that we called on as we visited Norway. Let me see, I'm trying to get this to move forward. You gave me control here, and I'm trying. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go back. So it's gone too far ahead. Sorry. All right, well, anyway, what I was going to say is we called on a number of different Norwegian ports, about 15 of them altogether. In some of these itineraries, we actually were able to coordinate the itineraries so that we visited the same port with both vessels at the same time. Great place for us to be able to drop down the marina. Our guests loved it, marina on both vessels, to bring out our water toys and enjoy the destination. This particular place is Rosendal in one of the fjords here. When we took out the kayaks, and we were able to take them and enjoy some time away from the vessel, away from the yacht itself. We went hiking. We have bikes on board, and we were able to do some biking at some of these local destinations. The Norwegians are very active. They like to climb. They like to hike. They like to bike. They like to ski. We didn't have any skiing offered during any of these voyages, but we managed. We continued on, and one of our most our most popular shore excursion, our yachting land adventure, if you will, was helicopter rides. We did not go to Geiranger or Flom in these itineraries, but so that we didn't totally exclude those from our product offering, we had helicopters that would take guests, if they wanted to do a flyover. It was very popular. It was something that was a true highlight of this experience that our guests enjoyed. And when we were visiting, actually on board, as Andreas mentioned, social distancing really wasn't practiced much, but the Norwegians enjoyed it. I remember hearing talk about, isn't Norway a little bit too chilly even in the summer? No, you could see our guests enjoyed the destination just like they were in the Caribbean, the West Indies, or the Mediterranean. We had lunch on board, did our buffets, and to do this with this type of backdrop was just absolutely spectacular. A true winner for us. Yes, the question is, and we've been asked this a number of times, will we return to Norway? That's really not a decision at this stage that we've made. Our vessels are really designed to follow the sun and for warm water cruising. But with what we've experienced here in Norway and what we created and offered and delivered, it was a true success. We only needed 200 people a week to be successful, and we got that on just about every single one of our voyages that we sailed in. Andreas?
Yes, so after a successful summer in Norway, the question is really, what happens now? Norway has been a very, very safe country to operate in. And we decided, I'm sorry, but we decided to cancel, as you know, the rest of the season in the Mediterranean, and also we canceled the crossing to the Caribbean. We didn't do that easily, by the way, but we did it because we need to focus our efforts now on the Caribbean to see what is possible. In the Caribbean, in Norway, it was one country, one government, one health authority. It was relatively simple. In the Caribbean, there are many countries, many islands, and lots of different entities that we need to, quite frankly, get to know. And we've spent a lot of time, especially Emilio and myself and some others. We have worked very, very closely now with various governments in the Caribbean to make sure, one, that we can operate safely, and two, that we are welcome. We don't want to go somewhere where people don't want us. We want to go somewhere where we are getting all the support that we would need, because during these times, we have to plan for many different scenarios. So, Emilio, I don't know if you still have control. Do you want to go to the next slide?
Yes. I'll just state that it is a very, very uncertain time, and as Andreas mentioned, there were a lot of different considerations. There still are. There's a lot of uncertainty. Right now, I would say we have really three choices. Number one, we keep our fingers crossed and we hope and pray that what we have planned for the fall and for next year, when we talk about the West Indies and the Caribbean, that we can pull it off. Number two, that we circle our wagons and we try something a little bit different and still go to the West Indies. And number three, to just take a pause and hold on and see when there's a little more clarity in the horizon. As I said, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a famous phrase that I heard a long time ago that's smooth seas never made skilled sailors. And that's what we're operating in right now. We are in uncharted territories. The waters are a little bit uncertain and a little bit rough, and we are looking at a variety of different options. So the key one that seems to be popping out more than others is going and doing 7-day round trip Barbados voyages and really concentrating our efforts on 3 destinations: Barbados, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Grenada. And as Andreas mentioned, there are key considerations that we're looking at as we go through this analysis. We want to go someplace that we're welcomed, where we can work with the local governments and we can come up with a game plan that makes sense for our guests and for our crew on board our yachts. Number two, that they are destinations that are currently already open. We don't want to go someplace where they're still closed, and we see that in a number of different countries and destinations in the Caribbean. And number three, that's somewhat secluded, that's off the beaten path, and that it's in line with the type of product that SeaDream offers. So this is what we're looking at, this little bubble within the Caribbean, being St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Barbados, and Grenada. And just some quick highlights. And I just wanted to share with you, I could spend hours talking about these, but there's certain sound bites that that resonate when we talk about these destinations. Friendly, smooth, sandy, silky beaches, off the beaten path where the big cruise ships don't really go to. Uber rich, where the rich and famous can spend their time, where they go. There's a saying I read recently in Bloomberg, where one of the destinations that we go to, Kenawan in the Grenadines. In the Grenadines. Yeah, Kenawan is where the billionaires go to get away from the millionaires. Places where there are just a lot of activity for our water sports. Some fun times that our guests can enjoy that also is in line with what we currently offer. in almost all of our voyages, and one that's capped with our signature program, which is our caviar and champagne splash, which we will have in every single one of our Caribbean voyages. And this is one just to give you an idea of what that is all about. Andreas?
Yes, actually, Bob, maybe you would like to talk about this one?
Yeah, actually, we came up with a plan to eliminate the concern of COVID as a reason not to book. And actually, the original plan we came up with was up to 14 or 30 days prior to departure, you'd be able to cancel for a COVID-related reason and get 100% cash refund. Otley actually said, no, I want to eliminate it right up to day of departure. So basically, if you book a booking from now all the way through voyages through June 30th, 2021, and you need to cancel or want to cancel because of COVID-related reasons, we'll provide 100% cash refund up to day of departure. If there's no COVID-related reason, but for whatever reason you're just not comfortable in traveling, we'll provide you 120% future voyage credit to be used. And again, that's valid up to day of departure. It's all detailed on our website. Again, we just want to have you to have the ultimate booking assurance in making future plans with SeaDream.
Thank you, Bob. I think we're now coming to the end of this presentation, but first we have one last thing we would like to share with you.
Surprise.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can, oops, let's see here.
Are you guys 6 feet apart? Please, a little bit more.
Yeah, really.
And Norway only asks for 1 meter, Bob. We are in a COVID-free country.
Okay,
Oh, that's great. That is great.
Hey! I love it.
We're
We miss you guys.
We're now live for both SeaDream 1 and SeaDream 2. And I don't know, Christoph, would you like to say a couple of words?
Yes, well, first of all, as you can see, I'm surrounded by the dream team here. So I have this lovely lady next to me, Anna. You know, all know Anna, of course. There's another lady over there, that's Ala. She's in charge of the housekeeping. We have, of course, Eric, our maitre d', Francisco in charge of the bar, and of course, the one and only Captain Biale.
Hey!
So we're all really happy. We had a fantastic 3 months here in Norway. I cannot tell you how beautiful this experience has been for all of us. We have done an incredible job really to make everybody really happy and experiencing SeaDream as it is all the time with the best level of service and food. And I believe we have succeeded listening to all the comments, the feedback, the emails we're receiving all the time. So I wanted to thank as well Mr. Blindestad for bringing the ships here, because we have seen some incredible scenery, backdrops, and having dinner outside, a cocktail party for the guests, looking at some fjords, it's very unique. So thank you for that. And we all miss you. We miss you all, our loyal and club members, and we are looking forward to sail with them very, very soon. Really. So thank you.
Thank you, Christoph.
Yeah, Christoph, thank you so much. So we went slightly longer than we had planned on us projecting. That's the easy part for us to show presentations and tell you what's going on. For this part of the session, we're now going to open up to some questions, and let's see if we can. So I see that, by the way, we have now more than 700 participants. We have 93 questions that we haven't even looked at. This was slightly different than I envisioned, but let's see here if we can try to get some questions. So we have some participants who's raised their hands, and let's see here. So we have 12 participants who's raised their hands. So I'm just gonna, and you may have raised your hand earlier on the call. So if you're not on the call anymore, I'll go to the next one. But I'm going to start with with Amy, and I'm going to allow you to talk. And if Amy, if you could just let us know where you're from, that would be great. And then if you could ask your question. So I'm now asking Amy to unmute herself.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, did it work? I want to give every one of you a big hug, but I won't. I am a notorious hugger and I miss you guys so much. You don't know, but I did send in some questions earlier and I think you may have at least partially answered one of them, but the first question is, will guests, especially from countries with high rates of infection, such as the US, where I am in Atlanta, Georgia, will we be required to have a COVID test before embarking?
The answer is going to be yes. So depending on, so if we just pretend for a minute that we're going to Barbados, is what's going to happen. We believe right now this is slightly subject to change, but most likely you would take a test before you fly. Most likely you would be tested at the airport. And for the third time, most likely you would be tested by us before being allowed to go on board. It sounds like a lot of testing, and some of you may have done this test before up your nose, and it's a little bit uncomfortable, but it's very quick. And the testing that we're looking at on board is a test that would give us the answer within, I think it's about 15 minutes. Yeah. And we could test 50 people an hour. So it's a very effective way, but in essence, Amy, you wouldn't be allowed on board before we make sure that you're healthy. So in addition to the PCR, RT-PCR testing, we would also check your temperature, and we'd also check your, I think, oximeter, like it's your oxygen level.
Amy, basically, we need to make sure that you and everyone else on board stays safe. So,
absolutely. Well, that actually makes me feel better. I'm immunocompromised and I have been quarantining pretty much since March. So that's comforting to know.
Thank you.
Or did you have another question?
Yes, and this ties into that. And you've partially answered it already, but the question was, if in mid-cruise, you have one or more guests that start exhibiting symptoms that may or may not be COVID, what procedures do you have in place to ensure the safety of the crew and the other guests?
Yes, so we can both. So in essence, what we do every day is that we take temperature checks. So yes. if you embark the vessel, if you come back on board, we test at the gangway all the time. We also test our crew every single day. And if there are any symptoms, and we had an example at this summer, I think even the office here was notified within 50 minutes of the doctor reporting a potential symptom. So we had, in addition to the incident that I mentioned, we also had an incident of fever on board this summer. And trust me, everybody got alerted. All the company turned upside down because someone had a fever of our crew members that actually just lasted for one day. But what we would do going forward, we would actually COVID test you right then and there. The test equipment we've had thus far is an antibody test, but that is not a very good test. So, but that's been the only testing available to us thus far. But going into the Caribbean season, we would have the real gold standard test that Sudesh gave the nice name of. So, so we have quite rigid routines if something were to happen on board as well. And I also want to mention, some of you may not know this, but the way our ship, sorry, Bob, the way our yacht is constructed. Oops, Bob gave me a hard time earlier today for saying ship, not yacht, correctly. So the way it's constructed is that each cabin actually has a fresh supply of air and a slight, is it under pressure? Whoops. Yeah. So that the air wouldn't actually leave the cabin. There's
no recirculation of air. So every cabin can be a quarantine cabin in itself.
Okay. And that answers my questions. And I did also understand earlier that you would serve any potentially impacted guests in their cabin, etc. And that's great. And I am not turning on my camera because I am just post-workout and I am not ready for prom time.
We do wait to see you on board, Amy.
I miss all you guys very much, and I'm going to let other people ask their questions now. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. So we're now going to mute Amy, and the next one on the list is Kim Jørgensen. So if you're still there, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, and we are hopefully ready for your questions. So this is the scary part for us, all this unknown questions, by the way. So let's see.
Just to add one thing, SeaDream 1 and SeaDream 2, if you need to go for dinner service,
Oh yeah,
please go ahead. If you're free, then please stay.
So I'm going to ask Kim once more.
But most importantly, thanks to all of you. Love you
Thank you,
guys.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Kim once more to unmute yourself. If that doesn't work, we're going to go to the next person on the list. Okay, so we're going to go to Doug and Pam Whitson. So I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to. Oops.
Hello, can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
that's Pam.
Hey, Pam. Hi, Doug.
This is Doug. Hey, I have a quick question. In the Caribbean, a lot of people like to kind of go off on their own, and once they get to an island, would you allow that, or do you have to stay within a SeaDream sponsored shore excursion?
You want to answer that, Andreas?
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Emilio.
At this stage, we have not been asked to coordinate SeaDream only activities ashore. And as you know, a lot of people like to go off and do their own exploring. So we will probably continue with that at this stage.
That's good. That's what I was hoping.
Great. Did you have another question?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Thank you so much. Then I'm going to mute you, and we're going to go to the next question. And that would be from Doug Kellner. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself if you're still there.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Hello.
can.
Two very quick questions. We are already booked on a February cruise. At the time we booked, it said that SeaDream 2 was undergoing a complete refurbishment this year. Did that happen? And the second question has to do with just, I'm unclear as to US citizens. I'm calling from Chicago. Will we even be allowed to get off the plane in Barbados? Or is that the process you were talking about in terms of when we get off the plane having a COVID test?
Okay, so let's talk about the refurb first. So we were supposed to do a refurb of both vessels this year. They both got canceled. This spring, we actually couldn't even get supplies to the yard where it was supposed to take place. So we're going to come back to new dates for refurb. They're most definitely still on the table, but they did not take place as scheduled this year. I want to say more, but I don't think I can at this point. So let's keep that as a surprise. But the answer is for now, no, it has not undergone a refurb. Regarding flying from Chicago to Barbados, so it's.
You want me to answer?
Barbados. Go ahead, Emilio.
Okay, I was just going to say yes. The United States is still considered a high-risk country, so we would. All guests that fly in, they need at this stage, and this can change. It's a very fluid situation, but the rules that are in place today with Barbados are that you have to present upon arrival a test that you've done back home that you bring with yourself and you present that shows that you've been tested within the last 72 hours. And that test, because you're coming from a high-risk country right now, you'll probably be tested anyway upon arrival in Barbados. And then we would proceed again and test you when you arrive at the vessel itself. So you may end up having 3 tests before you even embark with us.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Doug. I'm now going to mute Doug and go to the next question, which I have a hand raised by Richard Carrot. Apologize if I mispronounced that. I'm going to ask you, Richard, to unmute yourself and
Okay.
let us know where you're coming from.
It's Richard here from Germany. but currently calling in from Santorini, Greece, which is really empty right now with no cruise ships. So I think Doug had asked a good question, which is the one that I was trying to segue to, is can SeaDream maintain a program in the Caribbean without US passengers? Because it's such a large market to exclude. Because if you take the uncertainty issue, you know, as Emilio said, people waiting and then determining whether indeed 72 hours before they're going to be negative or positive is really not a very comforting thing for somebody who's planning a vacation that might know my husband's okay, but I'm not okay, and what would happen. It's still going to create a lot of uncertainty. So I'm just a little concerned that, you know, the Caribbean being so reliant on the US market that you can make a go of it. So that would be a concern of mine before booking, because nobody wants to book and find the cruise is canceled. So just a question. So can you do it without the US market?
I believe the answer, if we were to go with the Barbados path, is yes, because we would get a lot. We do get a lot of people from the UK, especially flying direct to Barbados. For the first time in, I believe, 15 years, British Airways has now opened a new direct route from London Heathrow directly to Barbados for the first time in 15 years.
Daily.
So daily,
Yeah.
oh, daily. So we think so. But again, right now, and that's kind of one of the reasons why we want to have this chat today, is to kind of get your inputs and feelings about what we're thinking about. But in theory, we should be able to operate without a lot of US guests. Normally, there's a slight majority of American guests on the Caribbean voyages and a slight majority of European guests on the Mediterranean voyage, naturally. But it's not like it's 99% Americans and 1% Europeans or anything like that. It's actually more even balanced. If we could, as one of few cruise lines, yacht companies, operate this season, we could also potentially experience what we did in Norway this summer, which is that we were one of very few lines that could operate. So now there are some issues also with flying from the UK. Currently, the government has this advisory against going on an ocean cruise. They allow river cruising, but not the ocean cruising. So we believe that we will be able to provide insurance that would cover you despite this government advisory. So, but these are, quite frankly, Richard, nothing is decided and we're not quite sure. So if you want assurances from me today, I'm afraid I'm not going to give you much of that. All we can say is kind of transparently and honestly where we are right now in our process.
Because I know that with your Norway sailing, we booked in from Germany, and 3 or 4 days before the cruise, we were told we had to be unbooked because of restrictions now on some of the ports. So you could not, for example, port in Skagen, Denmark, and there were some apparently cabin restrictions. And so we were offered indeed a different cruise, a 9-day instead of a 7-day. We were offered the 120% voucher. Or a full refund, but it really at the last minute really disrupts your travel plans when that happens. And that may not be your fault, but what happens is, of course, is that governments change their minds. You know, somebody becomes high risk all of a sudden 1 week and they can really screw up everything. So I had asked them earlier questions in the Q&A box, maybe somebody could reply to those later, of how you dealt with that in the Norway situation. I'm sure we weren't the only ones affected like that, of how, when the Norwegian government put in different protocols that, notwithstanding your own health and hygiene safety protocols, which are quite good, that you had to react and you know, take people off ships and change their itineraries. How did you deal with that?
Well, first of all, I just had to say it's extremely unfortunate and frustrating for you, of course, but for everybody. It's been a what happened in Norway this summer, without going into all the details, was that there was another company who operated in Norway this summer, and they chose not to follow the rules. And that impacted us significantly in the way that we had to reduce capacity. So that line is now under police investigation. And yeah, I'm not going to go more in that direction, but that was very, very sad, because what we experienced with the government in Norway is that they're very reasonable. We experienced the same with Barbados, by the way. Governments are there actually to help us. they're not our enemies. They're actually on the same side as we are. They want to avoid COVID and they want to operate in safe and sound manner. But it just did become a challenge this summer when not everybody chose to, well, let's say, follow the rules. So, but Richard, I just want to offer my sincere apology. That is, we live in a world these days it's a difficult world, no question about it.
No, agreed. So I don't want to use this as a forum to complain, not all, because we love SeaDream and you know, we were looking forward to the cruise. At the same time, when we opted for refund, you know, we're still waiting. So it's like this airline issue that comes up where they don't refund, they want to give you vouchers, etc. But you know, we were offered the cash refund. It was 12th of August that we booked. We're still waiting. So this is hopefully not something where you're following the airline model. And if you say you can cash refund, you should do that. So hopefully that is, we're an aberration here.
Well, full transparency, if you go back to March and April or earlier this year, we were in the airline category. We did censor myself there, a very poor job at handling this efficiently. I'm extremely disappointed to hear that you've been waiting more than 14 days, which is our maximum limit these days for issuing refunds. Your refund should have been issued within days, but I'm writing it down, and I can guarantee you that assuming we have your bank account or credit card, assuming we have the information you need, I'll absolutely promise you a refund no later than tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the way. I'm not. Again, I'm not complaining. We can afford it, but at the same time, you want it to work the way it should. At the same time, we wish you all success. I mean, the reason we're all joining this call, all of us across the world, is because we're all SeaDreamers, and we really want to keep you successful, and we want you to be, you know, we love what you did with the Norway episode. I think that was very creative and a good thing to do. And because you're a small ship, you can respond and be flexible and nimble, and these are all very good things. So keeping us informed like this is very, very useful. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to add someone else to take a question, but meanwhile, I'm going to reach out to our head of restorations because I want to look into Richard's refund, because that's not how it should be. Next question from Robin Parker. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. And then if
hello.
you take the question, I'm going to repeat this. Yeah.
Hi, Robin.
Hello. Greetings from Arkansas in the USA, everyone. My question is, we booked about a year ago for our first SeaDream cruise that was to have taken place this past May, which of course it did not. So we rebooked for May of 2021, slightly different itinerary, which we're so looking forward to and so hopeful it actually happens. My question is regarding your new assurance policy. Is that something that we have to purchase like an insurance plan, or is that just something you offer? And is that available to us because we have already booked?
Emilio, you are the revenue man.
Well, when did you book it again? I'm sorry.
Oh, probably a year ago initially. It was for a cruise for this past May, which we've rescheduled for next May.
Then you should be eligible for it, particularly since you've already signed up with us. You're with us, this policy will extend to you.
Okay, excellent.
Originally it was designed for new bookings, but you've been a tried and true guest of ours, a SeaDreamer, so to speak, and that policy will extend to you.
Well, it's a very generous one, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for that so much.
And you asked if you had to purchase it. No, you just had to go with the deposit and with the program as it's spelled out.
Okay. Well, thank you. I hope I don't have to take advantage of that. I have all my fingers and toes crossed that I'll actually get to do it.
You will, Robin. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. Okay, so we're slightly above our timer now, but what I suggest, I would take a few more questions, and and those you don't want to will. So we have a question from Frank and Rosale Urasco. If you're still there, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and let us know where you're calling from today.
Okay.
Yes, Frank Urasco.
Frank.
you know, we've been on 5 voyages in the past, and we actually look forward to the new ship that you understand canceled. Wondered if there's any further ship in the future.
Sorry, Frank, can you please repeat? We had still we could hear Richard, so.
Yes, Rosalie and I have been on your ship 5 times, and we had anticipated going on to the new ship that you were going to have, which I know has now been canceled, and we wondered if you will have your plans for any development of another ship in the future.
That's a very good question, actually. We have never said no so far. So future for SeaDream looks very bright. And as you can see, we are the only company which is in this stage right now. So if we continue to be operating, we all are looking for something new. Someday soon. Cannot say when, but someday soon for sure.
Good. We were looking for the extended itineraries that you would have under those circumstances. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right.
Next question. So we have Daniel Dorte.
Yeah.
So we're going to ask Daniel to unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you, Dan.
Oh, great. So first I want to tell you a very quick story that I think you'll enjoy. So my wife and I turned 60 3 years ago, and she wanted to go to Croatia. And we've been very fortunate in our lives that we've been able to travel the world, and we've stayed at some very luxurious resorts. And a friend of ours who's been on the SeaDream before said, you know, why don't you go on the SeaDream and we'll come with you to celebrate her birthday. And I said, you couldn't give me tickets to a cruise for free, I wouldn't go on. And that's been my feeling my whole life. And then my wife started showing me pictures and videos of the SeaDream. And I said, well, this doesn't look like a cruise ship to me. It looks like a yacht. And she said, it's funny you say that. They call it a yacht. So we did that cruise. And then we did another one last year to Greece and Italy. And we were planning another one this year. So I tell my friend now, why did it take you so long to convince me to go on the SeaDream? So I have no desire to do any other luxury vacation other than the SeaDream. So we're kind of very disappointed. And I have to say, I apologize that my country, the United States, has been so ignorant in how they handled this whole thing. We've been very safe here living in New Jersey. And so my question is this, and this is my only concern. We were planning with our friends to take all our family to the Caribbean on your March voyage. I believe that was from Puerto Rico to, I think, St. Thomas, which clearly isn't going to happen now. We felt comfortable with that because it was 2 United States locations. My only concern with this other one would be, as a US citizen, and I love the fact that you're testing and you're doing everything, I'm very confident that you'll handle this properly on the yacht. There's no question about that. But my only concern at this point would be, what if we are tested positive? How do we get home? Or are they going to put us into some quarantine?
Emilio, you want to take that?
I would say that if you're tested positive, and you know that's not a good situation, but most likely what would happen is you would be taken off the vessel and you would be put into a local hospital. Probably, depending upon your symptoms, you may be put into a designated hotel or a designated hospital, depending upon the severity. But again, all of this is fluid. There's a lot of questions that we're still trying to get answers to as well. And in you know, one country's rules and guidelines may not pertain and may not be followed by another country. So as I said, it's very fluid and it could change. But most likely, that I've been hearing up to now are that if we do have an incident with a guest on board, they will be taken to a designated hotel or a designated hospital. And those are all being planned with the individual countries that we're dealing with.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Go ahead. Oh, so the only other question I had was, you know, with the voyages we've been on, we've noticed there seems to be a decent percentage of U.S. citizens. Would you ever consider bringing one of the yachts to, let's say, to New York and do a East Coast cruise?
The answer is actually
No.
that we wouldn't consider doing that.
No.
Okay.
And we love New York, but and the East Coast, but we actually want to stay in areas that we know well. And one, if I just may add to what Amelia said, is what happens if you get sick on board? Well, that's exactly why we want to work with, for instance, Barbados, and like specialize ourselves and be friends with the hospitals, the government, the health authorities. So that's we have, and the Prime Minister too, which we're now reaching out to, and to make sure that we can actually do something that we feel like we can stand behind, and something that I would myself go with my family on board and feel safe if I even were to be in that situation. So
Okay.
that's basically limiting, potentially limiting the scope.
Well, appreciate it. And as they said, you have customers for life. So we look forward to our next many voyages with you. We're very confident with what you've done and what you've done so far with protecting everybody. And, we look forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Daniel.
Daniel. And I also just want to mention to Richard, who brought up the refund issue. So Richard, we're trying to reach out to you as we speak. So our head of restoration is trying to get on your cell phone to see how we can resolve this, maybe even today. So we are calling your cell phone, and if that number is incorrect, send an email to info with new contact details, and we'll get back to you like today, right away, because that's not good enough.
I see James Fine there.
So James Fine, we're now going to ask you to unmute yourself.
I'm here. How are you from New York City?
Hi, James.
Yes, unbelievable. We were on the last cruise in March from Barbados, and memories for life. Question, when are you going to have a final, what date do you believe you're going to have a final decision about going or not going to the Caribbean?
This month.
This month? Okay.
I don't have a date for you, unfortunately. What we are doing, just to let you guys know what's happening a little bit behind the scenes now, we are trying to call out to every single guest booked in the Caribbean and basically asking them, how they feel about now going to potentially Barbados. And once we get a better feel of the likelihood of people wanting to travel, and actually also getting some of your questions on those calls to hear what your concerns are or what the obstacles are. We initially felt that the main concern was that if you can't go or if you don't want to go, what do we do? And then we have some issues with the insurance, so we're trying to address those issues. So it's still a work in progress, and but a decision has to be made within a few weeks, actually.
Okay, great. And I have one final question for Emilio. With regard to Barbados, will we be, as Americans, will we be required to stay at certain hotels, or would we, have a, be free on our own to book wherever we want pre-arrival?
Well, the rules today, if you go online and look at what's written in their governmental website, they pretty much talk about people that are coming in and staying in Barbados. And anybody that arrives from a high-risk area, the United States, would be required to be quarantined somewhere between 5 and 14 days. But we're a little bit different in that they haven't come out forthright yet. They're still working on this, on guests that are arriving and that will be embarking on one of our yachts. And those rules are being worked on as we speak, and we're expecting them hopefully by it's end of next week. I keep my fingers crossed that will happen. I believe that what will happen is that if you arrive into Barbados, you better have that document 72 hours, or you will be quarantined in one of those pre-designated hotels that they've established until you've been tested and the results come back and they show that you are COVID-free. If you do have COVID, then you would go to one of those pre-designated hospitals or stay in that pre-designated hotel that was established.
Okay, great. That's it for me. Thank you so much. Stay safe and hope to see everyone soon.
Thank you, James.
So we are approaching the top of the hour, but shall we take one more question? And
Tom Living, let's hear what Tom has to say.
Okay, Tom, we're going to ask you to
And
unmute yourself.
there from Australia.
So I'm not sure, Tom, if you can, if you're still there and if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, Tom.
Great. Hi, guys. I just want to say two things. You've actually answered most of my questions, especially with the shot of Christoph and Captain Bjorn. But I want to commend you on the approach, thoughtful, professional, that you've taken to this whole situation. And I'm very hopeful that you can do what you're describing. It makes eminent sense to me and a couple of friends of mine that are booked in January have already texted me that they love the opportunity to change their origin and destination from San Juan to Barbados.
Perfect. Make more of those.
Thank you guys again.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, Bob, go ahead.
Andreas, before we end, I think I need to just clarify the Ultimate Booking Assurance Program to a small degree. It isn't open-ended for any booking from the past that's active for the future. The Booking Assurance Program is for new bookings that are from the date of the announcement, and all of the specifics are there on the website through voyages that are completed by June 30th, 2021. So if anyone has any further questions of that, they can contact reservations, but it is a specific booking period from the start to the actual travel date.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
Okay.
So we've gone slightly longer than we were planning on. This forum became a very big forum with more than 700 attendees, with way more hands up now than we can answer in the next few hours, to be honest. And I see there are 128 questions and answers in our Q&A section here. So I think we need to go back to those questions. Maybe we'll try to do something like this in the future, and maybe we'll even try to do it in smaller groups to see if we can get a more, I was hoping for an even more intimate thing. I think we did a great job, having some people ask questions, but there are way too many of you that still want to ask questions. And so I would just suggest that we try to do this in the future as well, but in a maybe even smaller setting. So I just want to thank you, Bob and Emilio and Sudesh and the team on board, and to all of you that ask questions. Thank you so much. And yes, Bob, any last words from you?
No, just thank you, and a big shout out to the crew. You make me so proud. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you all soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.